the Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima Tavali. On today's show we will review the weekend Serie A action, Napoli and Roma playing out the game of the weekend in a 4-goal thriller, as reports grow that Antonio Conte is getting closer to Napoli. Juventus and Milan meanwhile play out a dreadful 0-0 draw. Milan fans protest against their top target to replace Stefano Pioli as manager. That's Julen Lopetegui. Inter celebrate their Scudetto by beating Torino. Bologna slip up at home to Udinese, while Lazio continue their Champions League chase by beating Verona. Salernitana, meanwhile, are the first team to be relegated. We'll preview the European matches this weekend, the semi-finals in the Europa League and the Conference League, and we'll have our usual Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. For all our first-time listeners, this is our free weekly episode that we do every Monday, reviewing the weekend Serie A action, all the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all of our content that we do throughout the week, including a weekly Q&A episode every Tuesday, where we answer all of the questions from our Patreons, plus the weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much, much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP and become a subscriber for just $2.99 a month plus VAT. You can also sign up to be a paid subscriber on Spotify. We'll provide the link in the description. It's the same price in the same terms. And for all of you that do listen on Spotify, on Apple, on iTunes podcasts, we'd really appreciate if you give us a 5-star rating, give us a follow and a like. We're also on YouTube as well, so you can subscribe to us there. And it really helps us to grow and do more quality content for you guys. Okay, let's get into today's show. So let's start off with the game of the weekend, at least in terms of entertainment, and that was Napoli against Roma at the Stadio Maradona, a 2-2 draw. The first things to say, though, Nima, is what a game.
Yeah, it was very entertaining, wasn't it? It was an exciting game. I really enjoyed it. Lots of end-to-end stuff and lot of drama at the end, and no, I quite enjoyed it. I really did.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I thought it had everything. But from Napoli's point of view, if we talk about Napoli, I thought they were fantastic in this game overall. They dominated the first half. They should have been well ahead. They should have been at least 2 up at half time. They had chance after chance. Second half, Roma were a little bit better, but still Napoli created so many big chances. But they could only draw 2-2. And I think this game showed really, the two biggest problems that Napoli have had this season in this disastrous defence of their Scudetto. And that is, number one, that their finishing and chance conversion this season is officially the worst in the league, which was a surprise to some people because Napoli have been bad in a lot of games where, this is their third coach. They've been bad where they haven't deserved to win games. But actually, if you look at over the course of the season and the number of chances they've had, they have created a lot of chances. They're second in Serie A this season for big chances created. Only Inter have created more.
Yeah.
And their XG versus actual goals, they've scored 9 goals less than their actual expected goals. They've got the most shots in Serie A. They've got the second most shots on target in Serie A, just after Inter, only just as well. They've had the most touches in the opposition box in Serie A this season. But they, in terms of chance creation, in terms of their attacking, it hasn't been a problem in terms of creating the chances and having the shots, but they haven't put them away. And it's crazy that they're 9th in the table when you see these underlying metrics. So it's been, we saw that in this game. Anguissa has finished. Did you see his?
I was just going to say that.
It's one of the worst finishes I've ever seen in my life.
To me, I was just about, while you were talking, I literally just saw that replayed in my head in the 35th minute. I've never seen, it reminded me when you played Like when you were like when the first time I think I played ISS, like, do you know what I mean? Like when you hit the button too hard when you were alone with the
Well, you
goalkeeper,
hit
and
the wrong button.
you hit the wrong
Press the
buttons.
circle instead of the square.
Exactly, like that's exactly how it looked. I've never seen it. I thought I couldn't believe it. It literally felt like that. It really was symptomatic of everything you say, like everything you just said, and all those underlying metrics you brought up. That just embodies it, doesn't it? With
Yeah, it
that
does.
finish, I mean, when the movement was excellent, flick on from Osimhen was brilliant, and still, when you get to that chance, you can't finish like that for the love of God. What was that? And it's very symptomatic of Napoli's season in attack, but I also think that defensively, they have struggled.
Absolutely, and we saw that in this game as well. I mean, the two goals that they give away, just dreadful defending. I mean, Juan Jesus, I mean, how many times we have to talk about him? I mean, he gives away the penalty on Azmoun. How is he still playing, for a team like Napoli? And then they're ahead. It looks like they're going to win the game and deservedly win the game. And then they give away, a goal out of nothing, 89th minute for Abraham, where it's just non-existent marking. Where was the marking
Mm,
on that goal? And that's just where they're at really this season. They've not put their chances away, missed so many chances, and then they just haven't been able to defend. Even in games where they've been so comfortably the better team, and when the other team doesn't look like creating anything, and they just concede out of nothing, and that's why they haven't won this game. And I mean, it's crazy that they're down in ninth place, but it's very frustrating for the Napoli because they played really, really. I thought they were really, really good in this game, and they really deserved to win, but they're let down. Where it matters most, I guess, which is putting it in the back of the net and keeping it out of the net.
yeah.
And it's very, very frustrating because I thought that their big players were good in this game. I mean, Osimhen, I thought, was back to his best really in this game. I thought his all-round game was great, playing for the team, bringing others in, a focal point. He was as you say, a pain in the butt for defenders.
Mm,
He scored the penalty, but he had other chances where he was probably a bit unlucky rather than bad finishing, but he was setting up chances as well. And then Kvaratskhelia was delightful. Some of his delightful touches. He won the penalty. He went close twice. He one nutmeg that he did on Cristante, where he, as Zlatan says, he sent Cristante to the hot dog stand. I mean, that was one of the nutmegs of the season. I mean, it was actually really enjoyable to watch Napoli. This was like more of the Napoli of last season. Um, apart from apart from these shortcomings.
yeah, that's a very good analysis. I thought Napoli looked a bit more relaxed in this game. I think there's been a lot of nerves, and it's been a very difficult season for them, not just off the pitch, but also it's kind of translated onto the pitch. They've looked very tense. Like they're fundamentally a sound team, what Spalletti's built, but it's just not worked for them this season. And I think that Anguissa chance showed it. And defensively, we know, when you lose Koulibaly, Kim Min Jae, it's going to have an effect.
Mm.
And they didn't replace them properly, and everything else that we've discussed pretty much all season. So it's not really much more to add to that.
No,
Um,
for
but
sure. But let's talk about Roma. We'll come on to Conte, Antonio Conte in a little bit. But from the Roma point of view, they a few concerns for me in this game, looking ahead to the end of the season, and because there's a lot for Roma to play for to determine whether this season is a success or not. And they got. I mean, as we've said, they got dominated in this game. First half, second half, chance after chance. I think Napoli had an XG of over 3 in this game. They started the second half a bit better and they took the lead, and then they conceded a fluke. Where this is where they were unfortunate, and they conceded a fluke at a time when Napoli looked a bit broken. Understandably, Napoli dominated the game, and they go behind, and they looked a bit broken at that point. And then Oliveira scores this complete fluke, and then Napoli take over again. But we have to praise Roma for their fight in that even when they're playing bad and getting dominated, they managed to still show that fight and that De Rossi grinta, grit. And, they showed that against Udinese in midweek when they scored a 95th minute winner from Cristante in that bizarrely kind of played to a finished game where they played like 20 minutes and they managed to get the win. And then they showed that here with the Abraham equaliser, 89th minute. Nice to see him come back and score a goal. So, these are two huge goals and late goals. And that fight from Roma is really, I think, all that we can really take away from this game from Roma's point of view.
Yeah, it is. De Rossi was unhappy after the game. He said that this was a missed opportunity. He was annoyed, and I can understand why he was, because obviously, when Bologna dropped points as well, then they had an opportunity to gain on them, and also they don't exactly have a very how do you say, they don't exactly have very many easy games left.
No.
Atalanta had beaten Empoli, so they knew, they were expecting them to beat Atalanta because they played that game before. They weren't too happy about that, but at the same time, it's still a point away to Napoli. It's still, they're 63. They've got 59 points. They managed to keep Lazio 4 points behind them. I think that's the main thing. They maintained the 9-point difference to Napoli. It's not a bad thing. Of course, they would have liked to have won that, especially after having beaten Udinese in dramatic fashion when that game was played. And now they go into Leverkusen, and then Juve, and then Leverkusen, and then Atalanta, and then that's the end of the
Yeah, it's a very tough end of the season. Like, for this to get into the Champions League, they're going to have to earn it now because Atalanta close on Roma now because they won, and they will go ahead of them if they win the game in hand. And then like as you've said, those end of season fixtures. I mean, the next two games in Serie A are Juventus home, Atalanta away. They're going to have to. Well, they're definitely going to have to win at least one of them. They're going to have to beat Atalanta, to be honest with you, away.
Yeah.
To finish above them. But obviously they've got the backup option that they can win the Europa League and get into the Champions League. But they're obviously playing Leverkusen, and we'll talk about that afterwards. So, but the concerning, what I was concerned is they did look tired in this game. They were very flat, lacking energy. Obviously, they had the Bologna game on Monday. Then they had to go to Udinese to play this 20-25 minutes. Then they had to play this game as well. And Roma were very angry. I think they put out a statement saying that that they were very unhappy with the league for scheduling the Udinese game when it did, and I kind of guess their fears were realised in this game. And I think that's a little bit concerning ahead of not just the Leverkusen game, but also this really busy schedule, because they've got two massive games in between and after this Leverkusen double header, which is going to take a lot out of them because they're such a good team. They're unbeaten all season. So that, for me, that is concerning. That is concerning. It'll be a shame if they run out of steam and they're tired. The tiredness kicks in, and that ends their season, and it blows. They don't qualify for the Champions League, and they go out of the Europa League because of that. And that's my concern from this game. I hope it was a tough game. Napoli were playing really well. They were missing Paredes, and this sounds crazy for all the stick we've given Paredes, but Roma was so bad in midfield in this game. They got completely dominated. Napoli's midfield controlled it, and Paredes has become very important under De Rossi. Someone who and I think De Rossi said this after the game as well, is someone who kind of is able to control the midfield, makes them tick, keeps the ball very well, which is the words De Rossi uses. The other players are not that good at it. We know Cristante is not a controlling midfielder. He's not someone that's particularly good on the ball in short spaces. Borver has not really kicked on for me this season, to be honest with you. I know he's not always played. I like him, but he looks like he's maybe lacking something. He's still young. I think he's maybe someone that's lacking something a little bit at the very top level. Still a good player, but yeah, he was poor in this game. And then Renato Sanchez. I mean, what could you say about this guy anymore? I mean, he's going to go down as one of the biggest bidone we've ever seen, I think, in Serie A. I mean, what the hell was he doing on that penalty? Why does he after the action's finished trip the guy, with his back foot? Like, there was no reason at all. He was gaining nothing at all from making that flick after the ball. after the action had gone, and then he trips it and then he takes him down. I mean, that was on Cavada. I mean, that was just inexplicable, really, from Renato Sanchez. And
he's not been very good, and I'm surprised at that. I really thought he was going to be much, much better. I would never expected him to be this crap. I mean, seriously, he has been absolutely dreadful, and how Paredes has become the good signing, and Renato Sanchez has been, well, one of the biggest bidones ever, is genuinely bizarre.
And the injuries as well, doesn't help. But Sevilla has been, I mean, he's been so good since he's come into the team for Rui Patricio. I mean, he performed miracles in this game to keep them out. He's 3 1-on-1s in this game, saved 2 of them, and then he rushed out to put. Well, I guess you could give him some credit for the Anguissa miss as well. I mean, he made so many saves. He even made a save at 2-2 when Osimhen, right at the end, when Osimhen could have turned it around as well. To make it 3-2. So I mean, Sevilla, we have to give credit in this game. He was fantastic for Roma. But yeah, big 2 weeks for Roma ahead now. It's going to decide everything for their season. As for Napoli, I mean, obviously European qualification. You know, they've got to try and get into the Europa League, but they've been caught by Fiorentina now as well. So they're at risk of not being in Europe at all. And we know who does well, Nima, when the team that he takes over is not in Europe, because we've seen it at Juventus in his first season there. We saw it in Chelsea. I mean, this is all setting up for Antonio Conte, isn't it? If he takes over a Napoli team that are not in Europe, I mean, Conte is absolutely loving that. That's where he flourishes, and he is the best. 1 game a week for Antonio Conte. I mean, they're Scudetto challenges, aren't they? And yeah, the reports are growing now. On Friday, there was a detailed report on an agreement between Conte and Napoli over a 3-year deal. There's other outlets that are reporting the same, saying that he could be paid 6.5 million a year. I've just checked. We're recording this on Monday. Sorry. The Monday morning reports are that there's going to be new meetings between De Laurentiis and Conte in the coming hours and days. So, what do you make of this, Nima?
I can't believe it. I just can't understand. Like I
apparently Pioli's in there, so he's not. De Laurentiis is not just looking at one coach. Let's say that, which is a way any top team should work. Really, you shouldn't just have all your eggs in one basket. So Pioli's there as well. But it's going to be very interesting, isn't it? The next for both Napoli and Milan, it's going to be very interesting to see, because I think a lot's going to be decided in the next week or two. I think both teams want to get this manager sorted as soon as possible.
Of course they do. I think Pioli knows his time is up. I think Napoli are really considering, is it time? Because if you go from Conte, look, I understand you've played 4-3-3 for almost half a decade, or more than that, right? More than that, ever since Sarri, and even before that. So pretty much since Mazzarri left, you've played a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1. So maybe you want to change the formation. I get that. It's healthy to do that every now and again. But so that's why you want to bring Conte, and of course Conte's professionalism and the level that he works at, and we know what a meticulous perfectionist he is. But at the same time, that requires you can't go into a priest like Antonio Conte. It took Antonio Conte about 7 days after being unveiled by Inter before he started moaning, because Lukaku wasn't done in 7 days. He's not gonna. You need to have your ducks in order, and De Laurentiis must know this. This is Antonio Conte. He does not mess about. By the time preseason starts, and if the players he wants aren't there, the grumbling and moaning will begin. That's just how it is. And you don't have, the Victor Osimhen situation can't drag out. You need to sign defenders. You need to bring in what he wants. It's as simple as that. So you can't, if he's going to come in, you're going to have to start getting to work right now. Okay, you got Manna in. These unconfirmed reports of Pierpaolo Marino what's going to happen there. You need to have your ducks in order before you bring Antonio Conte in. Inter had that when they had Ausilio and Marotta already there and everything was working, and still Conte was moaning. So, that is a risk. I just still can't believe that Aurelio will pay 6.5 million net a season to Conte. I just don't believe that he's going to, because of the character he is and how he likes to do deals, selling Osimhen, selling that player, buying that player, haggling about pennies and dimes at the details, which he loves doing. You don't do that with Antonio Conte sitting there foaming at the mouth like a rabid dog waiting for his players, because that just destabilizes the entire environment.
I don't think De Laurentiis. I think that De Laurentiis acts first, thinks later on those kind of things. Conte, maybe it might be in Conte's point of view. It might be that if he doesn't get the assurances over certain control,
He won't do it.
then he won't do it. So I think from Conte's point of view, that could be a possible stumbling block in the negotiations. From De Laurentiis' point of view, I think that I think De Laurentiis is more like he wants something. When he wants something, he goes after it and he gets it, and then afterwards he worries afterwards about the side effects, let's say, of that decision. And so I think that's always been the way that he works. He has a plan, he has an idea in his mind, and he goes for it. So I don't think that will affect De Laurentiis' thinking, but I do think it will affect Conte's thinking. For sure, but it's going to be very, very interesting. Also for Milan, and let's talk about Milan's search for a manager before we talk about Juventus versus Milan, and let's talk about what's going on with Julen Lopetegui, because it is really quite fascinating what's going on. So it's pretty clear now. We know that Julen Lopetegui is Milan's number one choice. The board want him. The Gazzetta dello Sport and others have said that there is actually a contract offer that has been drafted for Lopetegui, 3-year contract worth around 4 million a year. That they're going to meet him again in the coming days. Milan want to get this sorted, it seems, according to all sources. They want to get this sorted in the next week or so. So, like, really soon. They want to get this. They want to get their new manager sorted. They're in the Champions League now. They're officially qualified for the Champions League. So Milan know now that they can actually start planning properly for next season and for the transfer market. So they want to get this manager in as soon as possible. So that Lopetegui is who they want. The issue is that this is what is amazing, is that there has been really strong opposition from the Milan fans to this, to the extent that we even saw, and I love this hashtag, Lopetegui.
Yeah. They started a petition, I think, on change.com, where the Milan fans Lopetegui. I'd say that this seems to be a new Milan tradition. We're right on schedule.
Pissing off the fans with managerial.
Yeah, the fans throw hissy fits and lose their shit over managerial appointments. Lopetegui out, just like Pioli out. Trends, they bring him in, and then things go well. So I'd say we're right on schedule.
I mean, Di Marzio says that they have seen all the opposition, and it has made them not rethink, but at least acknowledge it and have a debate about it. Have a debate about it. And so that, I mean, they're looking at Fonseca, Paulo Fonseca, the former Roma coach, seems to be an alternative who doesn't.
I'm sorry, but when I read that, I choked.
Yeah,
that is insane. Like, I know that he's a decent coach. Portuguese coaches are generally very, very well skilled, very well trained. They have it's a very good school of coaching. But he can do well in France, in Portugal, in those leagues. He can't cut it in the Serie A. Like, we've seen what happens to his football in Serie A. He's carved open. I
think he's a good coach, but I think that it's not a Milan should be aiming higher than Fonseca.
And that's exactly where I am. I just don't think he's good. In the Serie A, he can't play there.
And Lopetegui, I'm not as against Lopetegui, because I think he has done some good work, and I can see his clear identity in what he tries to do. I think he's done some really good work at Sevilla. He was doing really well with Spain until the whole fiasco of him having to leave. and then obviously at Wolves. My issue with Lopetegui is that he's clearly being pushed to Milan by Jorge Mendes, and if Lopetegui goes to Milan, then that to me suggests that Milan are going to become Jorge Mendes' bitch, basically, and and all his clients. That he's going to get clients and players that are going to get pushed to Milan. Basically, like when we've seen that with Mendes in so many clubs, where a key client of his, whether it's a manager or a player, goes to a club, one of Mendes' clients. And then all of a sudden, so many of his other clients then start going. I mean, Wolves is the best example. I mean, Wolves are basically, they should be renamed Jorge Mendes FC. I mean, is a become, and like that is my concern. Like with Milan, is that if Lopetegui goes to Milan, and clearly it's Mendes that's pushing it, then Milan suddenly become just Jorge Mendes' his team, and all of his players go there. So that is what worries me probably the most out of this Lopetegui, out of Lopetegui going to Milan.
No, I think that's a fair point, and I think also there's also I like when it comes to Pellegrini, like coaches of because I think Lopetegui and Pellegrini are kind of at the same level. I like them. I think they're decent coaches. The Manuel Pellegrini, I think he's, I think they play a sound football. They're sound tactically. I just don't think they raise the level to where Milan want to raise the level the next step after Pioli. I understand why reports, which I believe, by the way, that Zlatan is pushing Conte hard because of the fact that Zlatan and Conte, in terms of winning mentality, they know exactly what it takes. This kind of obsession of winning, and every aspect of your life has to be designed around that. And I think this Milan has shown that they react to those kinds of things. I mean, when Zlatan came back, just his presence in the dressing room raised the bar.
I agree with you.
Conte is the same animal. He's cut from the same cloth, and
he is, but he's not. What he's not is that he's not a company man. And I think everything that we've seen with Milan under Cardinale, under under Redbird, Elliott before, is that they want company men as their managers. They don't
sometimes you have to.
Well, no, I agree, but they don't. I mean, we saw that with Maldini. They got rid of him because he wasn't on the same page as them. And Pioli is a company man. He's done a very good job, but he's a company man. And I think Lopetegui will definitely not.
Oh, yeah.
He definitely won't rock the boat.
No.
He will be part of the team. Fonseca, I don't know so much from that aspect, but I'm assuming he will. Whereas Conte won't.
Conte won't give a damn.
De Zerbi, I don't know. Maybe he's the
Zerbi
other.
won't rock the boat. If he's given a chance to coach Milan, he ain't gonna rock anything. He's gonna rock all the way to the bank. That's what he's gonna do. He's not gonna rock any
maybe
boats.
Yeah. I mean, De Zerbi, that if they're convinced that he won't, then fine. But I mean, but I suppose I probably agree with you. Seeing as he's been at selling clubs, he's been at Sassuolo,
and Brighton.
At Shakhtar, he's been at Brighton. They sell all their best players.
Ain't gonna rock anything.
And he's accepted it. So maybe De Zerbi will be fine. But certainly Conte's not a company man.
No, Conte doesn't mess about. But the thing is that maybe sometimes you need to have a bit of that, have that medicine, because that effect lingers on. Because once players...
If I'm making the decision, yes, I'm with you, Nima. The problem is the people making decisions, I think they want a company man. They want someone...
But here's the thing. You bring Conte in for 1-2 seasons, because he doesn't stay longer than that. He'll win you a Scudetto. He'll fight with everyone before, during, and after. Then you will have had... the level will have been raised, and then you can bring someone in who's a company man, and because the effect will have remained, like Inzaghi after Conte, completely different kind of guy, completely different. But the players, like Inzaghi said from day one, they always made themselves available. They wanted to win. They were because of that effect last. I mean, Handanovic spoke about how everything changed when Spalletti came in. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like a step. You bring a Spalletti, then you bring in a Conte, do you know what I mean?
I
Like
agree with you. I agree, especially as I think Milan, as we said on the last show, Milan have the core of a team that
yeah,
can certainly push on with the right appointments,
yeah.
both in the management and just a few tweaks in the transfer market. I think they're in a position to really make to really make that next step. I think they've got the core there with a good summer that they can really make the next step up. And Conte or a top coach, a winning coach, can probably bring that. I just think that that's not the way that this Milan wants to work. They want somebody that will do as they say and not challenge them, and that's why I don't think Conte will or someone like Conte
But
will get the job.
the question is though, if Zlatan loses this battle, if it's true that he wants Conte and they go after Lopetegui, and Zlatan's not on board, I wonder if he stays.
Well, that's kind of why I'm surprised about Zlatan going to Milan, and that's why I do wonder long term whether it will last between the two, because we know that
Because
Zlatan.
he doesn't like being on the kids' table.
No,
He's not that kind of a guy who likes being seated at the kids' table and being used as a gimmick. That pisses him off.
that,
That's
and
just
he's
not.
also doesn't accept losing as well.
No, he
He's a
can't
winner.
handle that. He doesn't want to be anywhere near a losing project.
Yeah.
And if he feels that it's not at the level he wants to be at, then he'll just cut ties. He's very
Yeah,
ruthless that
yeah.
way.
Watch that space. I mean,
Yeah,
if we talk about Milan in this game against Juventus, from Milan's point of view, not much to say other than they've got the point. They've secured Champions League football, so they can start this planning now with the
yeah,
manager and with the transfer market. They've basically secured second place
yeah.
now. 5 points ahead of Juventus in third with 4 games left. I mean, they're not going to lose that now. They didn't play well in this game.
They were awful in that
They
game.
didn't
That
even
it was not.
they didn't even try. To be honest,
Yeah, I mean,
it looked like they didn't even care. To be honest,
yeah,
they did nothing. They created nothing. They had no shots on target at all. 0.31 xg. All their attacking players did nothing. Leao nothing. Giroud nothing. Pulisic nothing again. Just a point on Pulisic. This is one thing that he needs to improve for next season. Milan need more from him in the big games. He's come short on almost every single big game this season, both in Serie A and in Europe. Almost all of his goals, and we're saying that he scored a lot of goals this season, which is great. Almost all of his goals this season have come against bottom half teams. Have a look at the list of teams that he scored against. I think he has one against Lazio at a time when they were down the bottom. I think he has one against Bologna, which was on the first day. The rest, I think all the rest of his goals are against bottom half and relegation teams in Serie A. So that is something that Pulisic, because he's been really bad in the last few games against Roma, in both games in the when they needed him in the Europa League quarterfinal, and then this game as well. And it just that I had a little look, and he's in the big games. He was poor in the Champions League. He did score against Newcastle, but he was very, very poor in the rest of the group stage games. So that is where Pulisic needs to step up this season, and that kind of I think confirms where I am with Pulisic. Like he's somebody that probably he hasn't got what it takes to make that next step to be among the very, very best players, and that's probably why Chelsea got rid of him as well. That's what we need to see more. I mean, there's definitely a skill and importance to scoring against the lower teams, the lower half teams. That's in league seasons. That's vital, but we need to see more from Pulisic. But yeah, he just I guess just summed up Milan in this game. Nothing in attack. The only praise I can give Milan is that their defence was completely decimated in this game. Tomori out, Teo, Calabria, all of them suspended. Kjaer was injured. Thiaw played with Gabbia, and then Musa, who's a midfielder, played at right back, and then Florenzi, who's a converted right back, or really a midfielder as well, played at left back. And Milan defended, I thought, pretty well. They defended pretty well. I think all four did pretty well. I thought Thiaw was fantastic in this game. He was back to his best. He was absolutely magnificent. He totally dominated Vlahovic in this game. And I thought Sportiello played pretty well as well. He came in from Magnon, who got injured in the warm-up, and he made a few good saves. He made one mistake at the end when Thiaw cleared it off the line. But apart from that, he did really, really well. So I think we should give some praise to the Milan defence, given how decimated it was. But in terms of the overall performance and attacking, it was bad, really bad.
No, they didn't attack. They didn't try. There was nothing. They looked exactly like a team that had had their worst rivals win the Scudetto in their faces on Monday. I mean, it was just they just looked flat. They were mentally exhausted. They looked a bit hungover. They just like mentally hungover, not physically, but that like kind of flattened. The air went out of them. I think losing 6 derbies in a row with the Ciliegina sulla torta from Inter's perspective, winning the second star, getting revenge for number 19 that Milan won in their faces when they were a home team. I think that just kind of completely deflated Milan. And that's why, again, I think the only cure to that illness is Antonio Conte. Because if whether you like it or not, he's like that scene in Pulp Fiction when what's his name when Uma Thurman ODs and John Travolta drives him to that house and they shove the syringe in her heart. That's what Conte is, like
what an analogy.
No, but seriously, that is what it is. Like, because that's Milan or Uma Thurman after she snorts heroin up her nose and ODs right now. And Antonio Conte is the syringe.
From the mouth like Antonio Conte.
Exactly. They need the syringe is Antonio Conte and John Travolta is Jerry Cardinale essentially now. Do you know what I mean? Like he needs to drive her and the patient to the right place, and that's where Milan are right now, because it's just they looked completely devoid. And for me, Paulo Fonseca, Lopetegui, good managers, tactically sound, but is that really what you need to do? You need to turbocharge with energy. And you don't do that with, I think, Lopetegui or Fonseca or any of these other names. I think someone like Conte or Sarri is what you need. You need a ball buster. You need a hard ass. You need an ideologue. You need a hard ass who doesn't take shit from anyone, who goes in there and just kicks everyone up the ass and gets things going. And I think this game kind of confirmed it. I'm surprised that Juve didn't win.
Yeah, well, let's come to Juventus. I mean, first of all, if we're talking about this just as a game, this was a bad advertisement for Italian football. It's one of the worst. The first half is one of the most unwatchable first halves I've seen. I mean, the XG in the first half, 0.21 XG versus 0.2 XG. Horrific, the first half. The second half was a bit better in terms of Juventus had some chances. They didn't have loads, but they had enough to they had enough to deserve to win the game. To win the game by a goal, I would say. I think they probably deserved on the chances to win the game by a goal. But largely, it was a game with it was not a good spectacle, and it was not a good advertisement for Italian football, especially as we saw that, like in America, where the Serie A is basically going big on trying to conquer North America. Or they say they claim they've already conquered it, North America. They were going big about this, American derby, the Americans for Milan versus the Americans for, and then this is the game. This is any kind of new watcher of Italian football in America is not gonna watch again after watching this game. It was really, really bad. But yeah, Juventus should have won. I mean, the second half they had the double save from Sportiello. Danilo had a really good chance on the rebound. Milik had a couple of headed chances. One of them, the one from the corner, was a good chance. And then the Rabiot had the chance when Sportiello made the mistake where Thiaw cleared it off the line. So, Juventus, they didn't concede anything defensively. Milan didn't have a shot on target. So I think Juventus should have won the game. But again, it's not enough from Juventus. That's the bottom line. It's an improvement slightly on recent games. But you're playing against a Milan team who didn't care, who were, suffering from the Inter game. They were completely decimated in defence. 4 of their back 5 out. A midfielder at right back, a converted right back at left back, and they can't score. They had an XG of 1.1, which is okay, but it's not really good enough still against that. And Juventus's attack doesn't score again, and this has been Juventus's biggest problem these last 3 years under Allegri. As I explained in detail on last Monday's pod, so I'm not going to go through all of it again. But bottom line, 47 goals in 34 games this season. That's abysmal. That's 7th in Serie A. And no, 8th actually now, because Fiorentina scored 5 on Sunday night. I mean, by comparison, Inter have is it 79 or 81? I can't remember if I made this before. I can't remember if I made these notes before Inter played. And Milan have 64 by comparison. I mean, that just shows how far off they've been in attack, Juventus.
It's been a problem. There's no doubt about that. It's been a problem this season, the goal scoring for Juve. There's no doubt about that. And there's something that needs to be done. And I think it needs to be done not just at managerial level, but also at the technical level in terms of the squad. I just don't think they have enough firepower. When Moise Kean, Milik will do what he does. He's never going to, he can't be, he can be a complementary striker in the sense that you can throw him on, but you need to have your, Vlahovic has scored 15, 16 goals in the Serie A. That's good, but you need more from him. You need 20, 25 goals from him every single season.
He was really bad in this game as well.
Yeah, you need your 20, 25 goal a season striker. And
I read somewhere that his pass success rate in this game was 52% or something. So like virtually one of every 2 passes he made was. I mean, that's Davide Frattesi's on a bad day.
Frattesi on a good day passing completion rate. That's good. That's no good. But listen, I think Juve need to ask some serious questions now about everyone at that squad. They need to do what they did after Del Neri left and they brought in Conte, which is everyone is sotto esame. Everyone is being questioned. No one has a sure place at this Juve. In order to build something credible on par with what Juve deserve in terms of who Juve are historically and so on and so forth. But you can't, then that means even Vlahovic, Bremer, everyone, Locatelli, everyone has to be serious, hard questions need to be asked. They need to bring in a coach who understands that, who can transfer that onto the pitch. And they need to bring in players that understand that and are willing to understand the club that they're at. And I don't think very many players do. The attitude on display against Milan, or throughout this season many times, these last 3 years, I'd say, has been, it's not Juve. You don't behave like that at Juve.
Also, the arguments. Everybody keeps arguing when they come off. As sort of Vlahovic wasn't happy again here. The Chiesa, we've seen it. Vlahovic, we've seen it. Even Cambiasso did it again in the which game was it? He did it in. I think it was the Lazio game in the Coppa Italia, if I'm not mistaken, or the game before. Cambiasso was arguing until he told Allegri to be quiet when he came off. He said you're making the team tense. He had a go at him. I mean, you can't. It doesn't matter who's right, who's wrong.
No,
you can't do that when you come off the pitch
all the time.
You can't do it at all. You can't have a go at your manager or show that kind of negative body language when being taken off. You can't. Teams that do that don't win. They don't win. You've got to. Okay, occasionally it can happen. You get angry. You've even seen Lautaro do it, didn't we? But it can happen even in winning teams. But in general, this is happening every single game with Juventus, and of course, part of that is we know that obviously they don't have the trust, or some of these players don't have the trust, the attacking players anyway, with Vlahovic and certainly Chiesa, they don't have the trust in the manager, so that's why they're showing that. That's obviously a symptom of that, but it's also. It's just that has to be cut out next season. We cannot have this kind of players questioning the manager. However badly he's doing, you can't question the manager in public. You can't. That has to go. That has to be behind closed doors.
No, exactly. It has to be behind closed doors, and they have to be able to handle it. And the players need to be more disciplined. And I don't feel very many of them are. Now we know that Allegri is going to leave, but regardless. Giuntoli has to put down the foot here and understand make people understand what Juve is, and maybe bringing someone like Chiellini back as team manager, like Inter did with Oriali and now with Riccardo Ferri. Like, you need someone to explain the culture of the club.
Yeah.
And I don't feel Juve have that.
And to have that bridge as well between
Yeah.
the manager and the players, but someone that's young enough that's still like on their wavelength to an extent, not connected. Like you bring in someone that's too old, sometimes they're not. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? They're not on that same kind of generation. It depends. It depends on the personality. Everyone's different, aren't they? You know. Yeah, that needs to improve. I mean, Juventus's form definitely needs to improve. I mean, 15 games since the Empoli game, won 3, drawn 7, lost 5. I mean, that's horrendous. The Champions League race, I mean, Juventus need to be a little bit careful. If my maths are correct, Juventus need 6 points from their 4 games to guarantee finishing above at least one of Roma and Atalanta. That's the key. They need to finish above at least one of them. If they get 6 points from their 4 games, if I've done my maths correct, because Roma and Atalanta will play against each other, which obviously means they both can't get maximum points. If they beat Juventus play Roma this weekend at the Olimpico. If Juventus beat Roma this weekend, if I'm correct, they've qualified, I think, because they've got better head-to-head, and Roma will only be able to equal the number of points that Juventus got. If Juventus draw with Roma, they'll need 3 points from 3 games, if I'm correct. And Juventus's remaining fixtures are, it's not easy. They've got Roma away, Salernitana at home, Bologna away, Monza at home. So there's 2 very, very difficult away games there against teams that are fighting for the Champions League. Salernitana should be a gimme. So then it could potentially even come down to that Monza game, the last game of the season at home, where you definitely don't want to go into that last game having to win at home to Monza. So Juventus do have to be a little bit careful. They should be okay, but they are limping over the line. Let's put it that way. They are relying on other teams really at the moment slipping up to still be in a driving seat, because they're not getting the points themselves. So they have to be a bit careful. The only other thing I want to say is the civil war between the fans, which is another reason why Allegri has to go, because for a team to be successful, it needs to be united everywhere. There needs to be unity throughout the club, in the changing room, between the players, in the management, and with the fans. And, we see, I don't even want to call it a civil war, because I think a civil war is generally more when things are more kind of 50-50 or 60-40. Whereas I think pretty much every fan, almost 99% of Juventus fans around the world, want Allegri gone. But then there's the ultras that are absolute adamant and they want him to stay, and they're cheering. In this game, they're cheering and chanting for him, and they hold up a giant banner asking them for Allegri to extend his contract. And then you have the rest of the stadium booing Allegri and booing the ultras. And so, I don't want to call it a civil war, because that's giving too much credit for the ultras, who I think are just a complete cancer on Italian football. That's what they are. They're not real fans. They only care about the power and the money and control that they have, and they're also, a lot of them are Nazis. They're right-wing Nazis. If I'm honest with you, racists, and they're horrible, horrible people. And these Juventus ultras are, I'm sorry, but by doing what they're doing, they don't have Juventus's best interests at heart at all. But again, putting all that aside, again, this lack of unity between all the different fan bases, is another reason why Allegri has to go, because Juventus need unity. And while Allegri's there, these divisions are going to be more apparent.
They are. They're not going to go away, and I think Allegri understands that too. But it's going to be interesting how that situation is handled. If Allegri, how they handle it, because it's just a year. Okay, it's a lot of money. The Cristiano Ronaldo legal case just hit them in the face again. I think there's going to be quite a bit of upheaval at Juve, to be honest. I think regardless of how you look at it, they're also in a settlement agreement with UEFA, which they have to respect. I think they're going to have to sell at least one big name player this summer. I just don't see any other option. The question is who it is and who they replace him with. And I think it's going to be interesting. I think a lot of things are going to change at Juve. I think it literally is reboot. I think they're going to reboot everything this summer, and they have to, because they need to. They've not. They've tried everything else, and they failed at it. So now you have to give the mandate to Giuntoli to just clear the slate out, start all over. If it's bringing Del Piero in some sort of a managerial or some sort of a team manager role, or Chiellini, or someone who understands what Juventus is, back to basics. Do you know what I mean? Build an identity of what Juve are, who they are, start over. Because as things are right now, they're not working, and also it's just negativity around Juve. And you want to change that narrative. You want to change that vibe. Sometimes it's good to...
Yeah, it's negativity and hopelessness, and that's what
Yeah.
you need. That's all you ask.
You need to open up the windows sometimes, and regardless of whose fault it is and whether or not it is someone's fault and blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, when it's this toxic, it's not working.
And that's what Juventus fans want, because the good thing about one of the most beautiful things about football is that however bad your team, for any team, but however bad your team does in a season, there's always the next season where things start from fresh, and you start from zero. Everybody starts from zero, and you can go again. And that's what's beautiful. And what Juventus have been robbed of in these last 3 years is that after every bad season, there's been the hopelessness of coming back to the same thing again with Allegri, and that their hopelessness from last season into this season, in that every Juventus fan knew that this season was a write-off. And I said it at the start of the season, that Juventus, it's just going to be another miserable season, and there's that hopelessness, and everybody's just waiting for the season to end, that next season there can be some hope. But yeah, there is definitely going to be in the transfer market, Juventus. Well, I know there's going to be a lot of business being done ins and outs this summer for sure. Some of that will involve Bologna, and probably, let's say now, Bologna's manager Thiago Motta. Bologna draw though with Udinese. They dropped 2 points in the Champions League race. Although, because Roma drew as well, it wasn't the end of the world for Bologna. And in fact, Bologna may see it as a point gain, because they were down to 10 men, played a very bad game, who were losing, and they still managed with 10 men to get a draw, and even they even nearly won it at the end as well. So a point closer for Bologna, Nima?
Yeah, I'd say so. But I think they're going to make it. I think it's pretty obvious that they've collected so many points that I just don't see them crashing out of the top 5, which is now the 5 places you get to the Champions League. So I think it's,
especially
for them,
as Roma play Atalanta as well. So.
Yeah, it's basically management. Now it's just basically managing things until you mathematically secure the Champions League. It's that's all it is, really. And you look at it, and they got Torino away, Napoli, Juve, Genoa.
Not easy though. Not an easy end to the season. Those next 3 games are all. It's very possible they don't. They drop points in all of those 3 games. So it's not going to be easy for them. But they've got that gap, that points gap, and Roma play Atalanta as well. So somebody's going to drop points there, at least, if not both. So I think it's looking good for them. Motta, as much as I love him, I think he made some mistakes in this game, though. Motta, sometimes I think he does some unnecessary rotations. Certainly for a team that's only playing once a week, like not starting Calafiori. I don't know if there's any physical reasons for that. And then one of the other centre backs gets sent. One of the centre backs that start, Bukema, gets sent off. Doesn't start Orsolini. He's done that a lot this season, bringing Orsolini on as a sub. I'm sure there's some tactical reasons for that. He thinks that Orsolini can have an impact off the bench against tiring teams. But, in this game against Udinese, a team you're expected to win, I mean, why not just start Orsolini and try and, blow Udinese away? I found that strange. So I think he made some mistakes from the start in this game, but you have to praise him for turning things around with 10 men against Udinese. But I think the bigger talking point in this game is Udinese themselves. I mean, they're going to kick themselves for not winning this game. They had to win this game as well, because Rossoneri had won. They've fallen into the relegation zone, and obviously before kickoff they probably would have taken a draw. But you're 1 goal up. you're a man up, you're looking really, really comfortable, and then Okoye makes that massive mistake on Salamaker's free kick, and then also you Davis misses a sitter in injury time, hits the post. They're going to be kicking themselves because they had to. I mean, they had to win this game when they were, when they were a goal up and a man up. You have to win this game, don't you, Nima?
Absolutely. You really do. And it's worrying. I'm really, really worried. Okay, they've got Lecce, Frosinone, and Empoli left, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm not. This is worrying, man. This is really, really worrying. This is okay. A point away to Bologna is all right, but like you said, you're a man down, or a man up, I should say, from Udinese's perspective, and with about 20 minutes left to play, and conceding a stupid goal like that is just, it's unacceptable.
Yeah, and if Udinese go down, Nima,
it's so bad.
It's if they go down, it's because of dropping points from winning the season. They've dropped. This is insane. Udinese have dropped 27 points this season from winning positions.
I mean, come on.
How is that even possible? Like, add those 27 points to the 29 that you've got. That puts them on 39, 49, 59, 56 points. Yeah. That puts them in 7th position, 1 point below Atalanta. They'd be fighting for Champions League place.
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I mean, and it would be so wrong too, because I'm looking at that squad. It's not the best squad in the world, but it's certainly better than Empoli and Frosinone. I mean, it's unacceptable for them to go down. Yeah, and Cagliari too.
Maybe even Verona.
Yeah, absolutely, Verona.
Verona, their regen squad. I mean,
yeah, Verona aren't even. They're playing players that aren't even real.
Even real players.
It's AI. It's FCAI, for God's sakes. For some of those Verona players.
What's also insane about Udinese is their record against the top 6 is insane this season. It's they've got one of the best records in all of Serie A.
I know. It's insane.
They've beaten Milan, Juventus, Lazio, and Bologna. They almost got the double over Bologna.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely crazy, and it's like that's why I'm saying they shouldn't go down. Now they have Napoli at home, which is good because it's top side, and then they got Lecce, Empoli, and Frosinone.
So they've got the games against direct rivals that they can get themselves out of trouble. That's the positive. Cannavaro, listen, we've seen straight away what Cannavaro brings to this team. Did you see the time wasting in this game by Cannavaro? Oh my gosh. Motta said it after the game. If this is true, this is actually quite hilarious, that the ball was only in play for 31 minutes during this game.
Italian Serie A shithousery things. Like,
so this was a 31. This game was almost as short as the game against Roma in on Thursday. So this week, Udinese played 2 matches and the game 51 minutes, 51 minutes of matches in these 2 games.
No, it's brilliant, isn't it? Brilliant. It's absolutely.
So that's
brilliant.
What Cannavaro is bringing back the old school of
it's like the Serie A of the 90s.
I mean, it was pretty funny. Time wasting, the yellow cards, the professional fouls, going down, faking injuries. I mean, it was Okoye got booked for time wasting in the 51st minute, which was pretty hilarious. I mean, oh my god,
it's very, very funny. Very, very funny.
Let's move on to Atalanta. Pretty much straightforward win for Atalanta. Rested lots of players ahead of the Europa League game against Marseille. Lookman with another great week for Lookman. Scored that goal for to the crucial goal in getting to the Coppa Italia final against Fiorentina, and then another really, really good goal. Atalanta continue their really good form. And they're now 2 points behind Roma in the 5th Champions League place with the game in hand. They win the game in hand. They go above Roma into 5th, and also only 3 points behind Bologna as well. So it's looking really, really good for Atalanta, isn't it?
Oh, it absolutely is, and we like this. We like Atalanta. It's, again, when you see a provincial side like Atalanta with the very limited financial muscles they have continuously for a decade now almost, fight at the top, continue to produce players, young players, sell them at a profit, continue to be this stepping stone, is truly remarkable. And that they continue to do it at the highest European level. I mean, let's remember, they've been in the Champions League knockout stages. Now in the Europa League, they knocked out Liverpool after beating them again for the second time in a couple of years at Anfield in Europe. I mean, it's just... And now they're in the final of the Coppa Italia. They play Marseille in the Europa League semi-final, which I am a little bit worried about. I'm a little bit concerned because Marseille are a tricky bunch. You never know what you got with teams like with Marseille. I feel it's like they can lose 6-0, but they can also hammer you 5-1.
Yeah,
like there's no. They're such a tricky side. You don't know what Marseille you're getting, so it's going to come down to efficiency for Atalanta. I really hope they have kept their powder dry when they come up against Marseille, because they're going to need it. They're going to need Scamacca. They're going to need Lookman. They're going to need Cop Miners to show that they can take that extra step. In these decisive moments when it's squeaky bum time, semi-final, European Cup, you have to deliver. But I think in the Serie A, okay, they got Salernitana, who are relegated, Roma, Lecce, Torino. I mean, they're going to win those. Lecce, Torino, Salernitana, I expect them to get 7 or 9 points there. Roma, maybe a draw is enough. But it's what is good for them, though, is that Roma are also in the Europa League, so that they're not the only ones who have a tough fixture list. Okay, they have easier opponents, but they're also in the Coppa Italia final. They're also in the Europa League. So I'd say it's pretty even-handed between Roma and Atalanta in that top four, in that last fifth spot. But having said that, we need to just again Atalanta praise them for how they look so fresh. And in this, how Gasperini's got his season planning right.
Any individual in particular that you want to praise for the?
Oh, Gianluca Scamacca.
Any individual at Atalanta you want to praise for looking?
Oh, here we go. No, I'm staying clear of that. I just want to praise Gasperini's seasonal planning.
When Atalanta beat Liverpool, I started drawing up a meme, or like when you put two images side by side. In the left image, I had Bangsbo, and in the right image, I had an inhaler.
Oh God!
And I wanted to do kind of like Bangsbo. Bangsbo 3, inhalers 0. But I didn't post it in the end.
Yeah. Don't.
No, but they're looking good. Lazio also continuing their really, really good form. They didn't play great in this game against Regen FC, but they just about got the win. So Canyi coming back from injury and scoring the winner. And they are still an outside.
They're not out of it.
They're an outside shot for the Champions League. Yeah, they're 4 points behind Roma in fifth place. But obviously, bear in mind that Atalanta, if they win their game in hand, they'll go to 60, so they'll be 5 points ahead of Lazio. But it's going to be difficult for them. They're going to probably have to win all 4 games, but they've got a very, very good remaining.
Very favourable.
Yeah, Monza away, Empoli at home, Inter away, Sassuolo at home, and Inter obviously got nothing to play for. So it's going to be difficult, but it's not impossible. So it's been a good end to the season and a very positive start for Tudor, as we said on the last show. So we don't need to go into detail there, but yeah, they got the win here, and it's been a great effort last week for Lazio after the Coppa Italia win, but they were against Juventus, but they eventually went out on aggregate.
Yeah, there's not much to add to that. I think again we see that Tudor is laying the blueprint. He's created some stability. Things have calmed down at Lazio. That's the most important thing. He's come to a place where players were openly, saying goodbye in the middle of the season to, lots of infighting, and he's calmed the place down. And I think that can't be we can't underestimate the importance of that. And I think he's showing that the kind of football he wants to play, what he wants to do, and I think it's a football that really suits Lazio. I think this three at the back, the 3-4-2-1, actually suits them. Romagnoli in the middle of a back three is a good idea. Of course they're going to need some proper wing backs. I don't see Isaacson really being much of a wing back. Marusic, I think, can do it for as a stopgap. Guendouzi is really happy there. No, look, Lazio can be positive. Like I said, carefully optimistic looking forward. Hellas, on the other hand, if they stay up, it's a huge overachievement. And they have, they're playing Fiorentina and Torino at home, Salernitana away, and then Inter on the last day of the season. And this is going to be one of the most dramatic, I think.
Yeah, the final day is going to be exciting in Serie A. Yeah,
it's going to be mad for the relegation battle, because again, Udinese on 29, Empoli, Frosinone, Verona 31, Cagliari 32.
Nima's definitely doing a post match relegation post match pod or a watch along. I want to see Nima on a watch along on the final day. Right, let's Inter very, very quickly on Inter because they'd already won the Scudetto, didn't have anything to play for. A bit like Milan, they didn't look like they really cared much in this game either. And then I think the red card really just took the wind out of Torino's sails, who were actually quite comfortable until the red card. And then Çalhanoğlu comes to the fore, scores both. I mean, what a season from Çalhanoğlu. 2 goals, midfielder of the season.
Without a doubt, the best midfielder in the Serie A consistently from start to now. He's had a few dips, but the dips haven't been that bad. He's raised his lowest level, and he's become one of the top players in Europe in his position. One of the top 5, top 4, top 3, however you want to play with it. But he has been the midfielder of the Serie A, and there's no doubt about it. And the fact that he is, like Thuram joked about on Instagram, things, certainties in life, death, and Çalhanoğlu scoring from the penalty spot. I mean, it's just, he's become so stable as the penalty taker. He's become a pillar of this team, and he's become, he's really peaking. This is probably his best season in his career. And it was such a, this feast that this sparked as well. I mean, after the game, because I think that's the biggest talking point here, where there's some estimates saying 400,000 people were out in Milan yesterday celebrating Inter Scudetto. The bus that Inter were on, slowly from the San Siro all the way to Duomo, it took them about 7 hours from San Siro to Duomo. And when they got to Duomo, it was packed. It was fireworks. There were people all along this route from the San Siro to the Duomo. I mean, the game, it was an early kickoff game. It ended at about 2:30 p.m. my time, Italy time. And they got to the Duomo at 11:30. So, and then it was just madness, complete mayhem. The treble wasn't even celebrated like this. It's just the vibe and buzz around Inter is truly, it's like when you read about it in the 50s and 60s. Like, that's the vibe around Inter. They've really managed to build a connection with the fans in the city, and just built a community in a way that we've not seen. Even when we won the treble, when Inter won the treble, we didn't see this like this. This is something else. There's a real connection here, and the players and the fans, they enjoy. There's a relationship there that they all enjoy. The players love singing the new chants of the fans, and they have a good connection with one another. I mean, yesterday there was they started singing derogatory songs about Teo and I don't know who else.
I like the banner.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that. They started doing that, and then the Inter players were like, no, we just sing like Inter songs. But the banner, I mean, listen, I don't care. I have to say this. I don't care that people get so easily offended. If there's one thing, one of our patrons tweeted it out, which I agree with 100%. He said that the banner beefs between Inter and Milan players when they win the Serie A is the best thing to have happened this league in a very long time.
The banner
And I
wars.
100% agree with that. Like if people don't really know where this started in 2007 when Ambrosini, after Milan won the Champions League in 2007, Inter won the Scudetto, and Ambrosini said you can stick the Scudetto up your ass. And then since then, there's been these banners between, Teo held a banner saying you can stick the Coppa Italia up your ass. And of course, what happened between Teo and Dumfries, one fan had this image of, like, I think it's a Grand Theft Auto image, where it was Teo as a dog and Dumfries holding him. Everybody's, has seen it. And Dumfries held it up. He's going to be fined €5,000. Zlatan's starting chants about Çalhanoğlu being a son of a blah, blah, blah. And this is just, I don't care if people are offended by this. I know it's not, rated for children, but at the end of the day, if you understand the dynamics of the Milan derby, that they have a peace pact where the trade-off for no violence is that everything in banners except for racism is allowed. And I mean everything. I've seen banners that are just so unhinged, from Inter fans holding a giant banner that says Barbara Berlusconi loves Bukake, to what we saw yesterday, and everything in between. This is just part of the Milan derby energy. This is what they've got. And this is what it is. And the trade-off that they've done is they don't have any violence. They have, and I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I'm saying it's just part of the culture. And they don't do anything. There's nothing racist here. There's nothing like that. It's just they take the piss out of each other. And I like that. I think it gives it it's part of fan culture. It's part of football tribalism. Sometimes it can go over the line. I don't think this went over the line at all. Just holding it's a meme, for crying out loud, of Teo as a dog and Dumfries as an owner. He didn't create it. The fans gave it to him. He laughed. It's not that deep. People need to get over themselves and stop being so offended over everything. There is an aspect of rivalry between this. Of course, there's a line you can cross. This certainly was not a line crossing for me. I wasn't even bothered when Ambrosini and Teo held those banners of sticking the Coppa Italia and Serie A up your wazoo to Inter. I don't care. I'm not bothered by that. I'm not offended by that. I don't think anyone is. It's just when you win, get one over your worst rival, and there's been a lot of shit talking, it's going to go back and forth. It's as simple as that. That's part and parcel of sports, and I quite like it. I think it makes it, it's part of the rivalry between Inter and Milan. When I interviewed Thomas Nordahl, who's the son of Milan legend Gunnar Nordahl, he used to tell me that when he grew up, when Inter won the derby, they used to have funeral processions.
Yeah,
like an actual casket of a
that's
resting
common.
wedding.
That's common in Italy.
Yeah,
Napoli, that's famous.
yeah,
When Napoli won the Scudetto in
yeah,
'87, they did that
yeah.
with
It's
Juventus coffins.
it's just part of Italian football culture, and I'm sorry it's not sanitized for you, but get over yourself, because again, there is a line you can cross, and I don't think this was crossed here. I don't, this classy, not classy, whatever. I don't care, really. I really don't care. I think people need to get over themselves. I thought it was hilarious. I thought the celebration that they had was unbelievable. Inter fans in Milan and everywhere in Italy turned up. It was beautiful to see. It showed Italian football. All over social media was plastered with these beautiful scenes, and I thought it was cool. And they had fun, and it was a very festive atmosphere. Of course, they were going to mock Milan after having won the Scudetto in their faces at the San Siro. And next time Milan win, they'll do the same back. This is just how it goes. This is sports rivalry, and as long as they don't cross the line, there's nothing to be upset about it. I just think it's funny.
Yeah.
And that's all it was.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Right. Rest of the weekend Serie A fixtures. I'll just read out the results. Frosinone 3, Salernitana and nil. That means Salernitana are relegated. Lecce 1, Monza 1, and then Fiorentina hammering Sassuolo 5-1, which means that Salernitana are down, but
Yeah,
Sassuolo
they're out.
are really very, very much at risk now because they are Sassuolo are 5 points from safety now with 4 games left, so they're on the brink now. Sassuolo. And then then there's a bunch of teams that are Udinese, Empoli, Frosinone, Verona, and even Cagliari. Although Cagliari play on Monday evening at Genoa, so they could.
I mean, if Cagliari win that's that all. But
Then they're all right. But if they lose,
they're in the race. Yeah,
they're in the race
they
as
need to
well.
win this game. If they win against Cagliari, they'll be on 35 points, and then they'll play Lecce, who are on 36. And I can bet you,
Yeah, Biscotto.
biscotto, a vintage biscotto cooked by nonno. Like that game is gonna end in a 1-1 or a 0-0 draw. 30, so that they are on 37, 36. It's gonna be the holy biscotto of
By the
biscotti.
time
Like,
Preziosi picked up that bag of toys, he's going to be picking up a bag of biscuits.
it's gonna be the mother of biscotti. If Cagliari win tonight, I'm not even watching Lecce and Cagliari, because there's nothing to watch. We all know what's gonna happen there. They're
Yeah,
not gonna hurt each other.
yeah,
They're
for
gonna
sure.
draw that game.
Okay, let's quickly close this show up. So the European matches on Thursday. It's the semi-final time. Champions League. Our team's not in there, but Europa League and Conference League. The first legs of the semi-finals. Marseille at home in France, the first game, and then Roma Leverkusen, Roma at home at the Olimpico this week. I think we're pretty confident about Atalanta going
Yeah.
into this tie. Roma though is
Oh,
going to be very, very difficult, and I'm just we're hopeful, but I'm just worried about Roma looking a bit tired. And Leverkusen, I mean, they're invincible. They haven't lost a game in all competitions this season. And I was watching the end of their game against Stuttgart. And Stuttgart are a good team, by the way, at the weekend. And they scored in the 96th minute.
that's the thing. They score late. They continuously score late.
Yeah.
And there is a bit of history between these two sides. They played last year, didn't they, in
Yeah.
the semi-final of the Europa League? And Leverkusen want revenge.
Yeah.
So I'm worried about
Roma
Roma.
have the more European experience because they've got
They do.
2 finals. So I think they need to use that to their advantage, and hope that the big players, Dybala, hopefully Lukaku's back. Hopefully they can step up. Leverkusen do concede chances though. They do concede chances. They did against Stuttgart a lot of chances, and
I just hope for De Rossi to show that he is ready at this level. That if he can tactically outmaneuver Xabi Alonso over 2 games, then we're talking about one of the most impressive managerial breakthroughs in Italian football in recent years. Because then it's not just fluke, it's not just form. He will have played some of the best coaches in all of Europe this season, and he will have tactically outmaneuvered or at least matched them.
yeah.
So
We need a
can't.
win. We need a win for sure. We definitely need a win.
Oh, an all Italian Europa League final, Atalanta Roma. Please, God in heaven, give it to me.
That would be
I
lovely.
need it.
That would be lovely, wouldn't it? And Fiorentina, Club Brugge. Fiorentina at home in Florence for the first game. Club Brugge are a pretty decent team. They've got some players.
They shouldn't
They've got some
underestimate
players wanted by big clubs. So let's not.
They can't underestimate that.
I can't claim to have watched.
No.
Belgian
They can't
league,
underestimate
but
that. They can lose that.
Yeah,
They can lose that.
it's not as easy as you think, but yeah, we it's good to see Fiorentina getting a big win to get their confidence up, and also to score some goals as well.
That would be nice.
Because they don't score, they don't put enough of their chances away, and sometimes that lets them down. Almost did in the last
ketchup effect, as we say in Sweden against Sassuolo, isn't it? Like the Heinz ketchup effect. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you can the floodgates open, and I want to see. I was very happy to see them score that many against Sassuolo.
We call it the Pringles effect in England.
Why Pringles?
Once you pop, you don't.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Right, let's finish with Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. Baggio.
I think the Scudetto celebrations were just unbelievable. Again, 300,000-400,000 people out in the streets for 9-10 hours. From the San Siro all the way to the Duomo, getting there at the Duomo, and then the fight. Have you seen the scenes?
Yeah.
It's
Italian. That's what Italian football does best. They know how to celebrate.
there's nothing like
No,
it.
Italian, all of them, they all know how to.
Yeah, whether it's Rome, whether it's Naples,
Mm.
wherever it is, it's just Italian
They
football.
know how to put
Italian
on a
football
show.
celebrations are just. It's unlike anything else. The fireworks, the singing, the chanting, nah, man. It's
Yeah, I want to give
Italian
a
football.
shout out also to Lookman because he had a big week for
Yeah, he did.
Atalanta.
He did. He really did.
Right, Premface. Do you have a Premface this week?
I saw one of Roy Keane. I don't know if we've had it, but did he actually call Haaland a League Two striker?
No, did he really?
Yeah, I'm learning this now, and I'm like, huh? Do you think there's a more bitter son of a bitch on earth than Roy Keane? I mean, is there a more miserable son of a bitch than Roy Keane on this planet? Like, has he ever been happy with anything in his life? Like, it's like you have this expression in Sweden called resting bitch face.
Yes, we have that here as well.
That Roy Keane is like got resting bitch attitude. Like, it's like he just can't. He cannot be happy. It's like
I saw an interview a couple of weeks ago of Roy Keane about how he used to refuse kids' requests for interviews, for autographs. Sorry, and the way that he used to get so pissed off at them, like, is your life so worthless that you have to ask for autographs from people?
Can you imagine talking to children like that? How bitter of a human being you have to be. What a miserable human being he's got. Like, can you imagine having that guy around you all the time?
Oh God!
I mean, Jesus Christ on a cracker. Like, he is just such a boring, like, miserable, bitter, miserable. Like,
And he did say it. It's true. He did call him a league. I imagine he's talking about his first touch and his ability to bring others into play. I would imagine he's talking about.
it was yeah, I guess so. But still, League Two striker. I mean, and it's funny too because I'm sorry, Roy Keane was hardly known for his technical ability.
No.
I mean, if pot calling kettle black. I mean, I don't know. I would chill if with the. Yeah, you were a great ball winning midfielder. There's no doubt about it. One of the best at the time, but you weren't exactly Diego Maradona, mate. Like, you want to calm down. Like,
Let's be
down.
honest. He has history with Haaland's father, doesn't he?
Well, he ruined his career.
He ended his career. I mean, it was. There's no doubt about that, and I think that's what this is about as well. If you know the history, it's just what a miserable human being that is. Christ on a cracker. That is right. Serie Ass of the week. Oh, this is gold. This is absolutely
okay. I'm not making this up. Okay, this actually happened, and I shared it on my Twitter. It's from the Serie A official Instagram account, and what they wanted to do was a kind of mashup between. They wanted to do an art mashup of famous Italian classical, old Roman Empire level, art from that era or depicting that era, and Inter players, which is a great idea, but the execution was primary school student level. It was like it's there's a photo of Thuram and Dumfries, and like all they've gone like they've cut it diagonally, and then they've just glued in the statue, and it just looks so weird and low budget. It's so poor. It's all of them. It's Fratesi on some Roman general. It's Aslani looking like he's kicking the ball, and then his foot is touching. It looks so bad. And it looks just like they literally did it. Like our good friend Salbono tweeted at us. He tweeted at me. He said, "It looks like something one comes up whilst waiting for whilst waiting on the driving range for one's turn at golf." Like, it's like there's no. It's like, again, a great idea, dreadful execution.
There was a series of them, wasn't there?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Fratesi, Aslani, Dumfries, Lautaro.
Yeah, it wasn't just one because you forwarded me one of them first. And
Then I sent you the
I
post.
saw that there was about 5 or 6 of them, and the photoshopping was actually about as bad as my photoshopping, as you'll be completely unsurprised to know, is not the best. And I mean, I think I could have done a better job at photoshopping. And artistically, as I said before, I'm not the best. I once painting a picture of the horizon at school. I painted the sun in front of the mountain. That's how bad I am when it comes to art. and I think I could have done a better job at Photoshop. And then the fonts and everything about
I'm
it.
sorry, but the one with Dumfries and I think it's Kirikesh, or is it Erlich and Thuram, where it looks like, well, they've given Thuram breasts, like B-cup breasts and a vagina, and it looks like he's got his hand on Erlich's bum. Like it is so weird.
Sports
Like,
golf reporter. They taken his image maybe and put it.
and then the one with Lautaro doing his signature like celebration, and that statue that it's so bad. It's so bad. It's just such bad execution. And it's just, I don't know, man. It's just, I don't know, conquering North America.
Yeah, great.
It's just so bad.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back on Tuesday for the Q&A,
The Q&A.
and then another episode later in the week. Until then, ciao, ciao.